Bordering Lebanon and the Mediterranean Sea is a little country known as Syria. It has caused an international incident, and to know why, we must go back in time. Ever heard of the Fertile Crescent? If you haven't, it's this amazing little piece of land discovered by ancient nomadic humans around 10,000 years ago, and Syria was a significant part of the crescent. This piece of land was so spectacularly rich that people started to settle down for the first time in history. And before long, the benefits of establishing a permanent settlement greatly rewarded their decision. For example, some people could now take their time to think instead of just working all day to survive, because unlike when they were nomads, only a few people had to tend the cows or make the crops. This era was known as the Neolithic period, the beginning of human civilization. Syria and the rest of the Fertile Crescent was pretty much the birthplace of all of it. But I'll spare you the PBS special and move on. So fast forward several centuries and you'll see Syria occupied by the Assyrians, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, all sorts of people currently who are irrelevant. It was later taken over by the Persians for their massive empire, and then later by Alexander the Great for his massive empire. Then became a Roman province in 64 BC for their massive empire. Syria has a significant contribution to ancient religions, notably Christianity and Islam. Syria turned into an Islamic state when it was conquered by the Rashidun army. In 640 AD, forces led by Khalid ibn al-Walid, a companion of Muhammad, seeking to unify Arabia and its surrounding regions under Islam after the Prophet himself died 8 years earlier. The first four caliphs, or Islamic rulers, after Muhammad's death were known as the Rashidun Caliphate. The next four were called the Umayyad Caliphate. Syria grew corrupt, oppressing people and establishing totalitarianism that would surely lead to an overthrow by another Islamic Caliphate. Islam has now taken a hold of Syria. In 1516, the Ottoman Empire, a powerful Turkish force famous for its discoveries in science, mathematics, and astronomy, conquered Syria for its massive empire. This medieval empire lasted until the end of World War I because they were on the losing side, and also they killed 1.5 million Armenians along with other horrific war crimes. So Syria after then was mostly occupied by France, except for a short-lived Republic of Syria until the April of 1946, after World War II split borders and created new countries like world wars usually do. So Syria gained its independence after thousands of years of being a territory for super powerful empires. From then on, Syrian politics got quite messy. I won't go into the details. In 1956, Syria signed a pact with Russia, a direct effect of the Suez Crisis, allowing communism to influence Syria in exchange for weapons. In 1958, Syria and Egypt decided to join forces and become one country. This country was known as the United Arab Republic. So meanwhile, Syrian Ba'ath officers decided to form a secret military committee worried about the instability in their union. This committee included Hafez al-Assad. When Syria seceded from Egypt in 1961, it took barely 2 years for the further instability to cause a coup d'etat, a military overthrow of a country. This was organized by the Arab Ba'ath Party, which I previously mentioned, although not by the military committee because it was secret. So what is the Ba'ath Party? Well, it's a political party founded to unify all Arabic countries under a secular law. The secret military committee carried out an intra-party coup d'etat in 1966 and overthrew the current national command. They had different opinions. Hafez al-Assad was instated as president after another coup in 1970. this one a bloodless coup. This split the Ba'ath Party into two, the Syrian-led movement and the Iraqi-led movement. Under Hafez al-Assad's rule, Syria invaded Israel, which was terrible because Israel just pushed back into Syria. In 1976, Syria invaded Lebanon and took it over for almost 30 years. This Hafez al-Assad guy is quite an interesting and controversial figure. On one side, he was hailed as a hero of secularism, gender equality, and nationalism, while on the other hand, he was criticized for being an authoritarian dictator. He was also controversial for being an Alawite Muslim, part of a branch of the Shia Muslims, which was had different beliefs from the rest of Islam. When al-Assad died in 2000 from a heart attack, the required minimum age for presidential candidates was quickly dropped from 40 to 34. And can you guess who was 34 years old at that time? It was Hafez al-Assad's son, Bashar al-Assad, a guy who won 97% of the popular vote. Of course, there was the fact that no other candidates were running and you could only vote for him. Now we're up to what's happening now. Mr. Teacher, is all this backstory really necessary? Half of your audience is gone already. Shut up or I'll beat you with my pencil. So in 2011, protesters were fed up with Bashar al-Assad's rule and took to the streets demanding his resignation. After all, the family had been in office for 40 years and the party was in office for 50 years. So how did al-Assad handle this peaceful protest? He ordered the Syrian army to kill the civilians protesting across the country. What a wonderful and calm and rational way to settle this conflict without angering a whole nation that already dislikes you. So this military alert started a civil war. Oxymoron alert. Anyways, what started as a peaceful protest grew into a large-scale nationwide fallout. Civilians were arrested, tortured, and killed. Assad has been attacking towns and cities with tanks, artillery, and infantry, and there's even been signs of chemical weapons. The total death toll of people in Syria has surpassed 100,000, most of them civilians. The civil war has caused an international incident where both Canada and the United States have called for the resignation of al-Assad. For Obama, Assad using chemical weapons was crossing the line. He, along with Prime Minister Stephen Harper, demands for military action. The United Nations is at a turmoil because any call for action has been vetoed by the Russians. As I've told you, they have signed a pact with Syria, so they're sort of allies. And they are in strong support for the actions of Assad's government. So right now, there's nothing the US or Canada can do without angering one country or another. There's almost no way to solve this problem, and we just gotta hold our breath.